Welcome to our class. Today we're going to make 3 mixed media Valentine's Day cards. You see all this stuff on my desk here. We're going to use some of it. We're going to improvise with some of it. I'm not sure how we're going right now, so that's why you just see a pile of stuff. I know I'm going to pull from it. There are certain things you will need. You do need 3 bases. We're going to make our cards 5 by 7. So what I have here is I took 3 pieces of cardstock and I cut them 7 by 10, scored it down the middle, folded it. So now I have 3 5 by 7 cards. I like working in this size because it gives you plenty of room to do things, but it's not so large it's overwhelming. Color paper, because it's heavier, we can add more onto it without it buckling. But since you are going to be gluing down onto your card base, you don't have watercolor paper, go ahead, just use neutral cardstock, a white or an off-white. We will mount our cards before we put them onto our card bases. I don't have that cut yet because I'm not sure what color schemes I'm going to do, but when we get to it, you're going to cut 4 3/4 by 6 3/4 mats so you can mat your creation and just kind of give it a finished border. And I like doing that. I like how it looks when you do that. So for right now, the 3 things you need are your card bases, 5 by 7 from a 7 by 10 piece of cardstock. And then your 3 that we're going to work on here, your 4.5 by 6.5 pieces of watercolor paper neutral cardstock. And then for each card, I will give you a list of what I exactly use once I get down to it, once we start doing this. But this is just some ideas, just something you might want to pull ahead of time. I have scraps of lace, cheesecloth, tissue paper, scrapbook paper. You know, we all have that floating around our rooms. If you're like me, you have more than a little. Book text. We're going to use solvent ink for everything we do. I just have stone gray here to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. But this is a good ink. It will stamp on just about anything out there. So if you do paint or mist or other ink or mediums, gel medium, gesso, whatever you use, this will stamp over it and it will dry quickly. It won't smudge. I have a paint dabber here. If you don't have this, you know, this is a neutral color. If you just have some white acrylic paint or gesso, again, it doesn't matter. Just a neutral paint that we're going to use. If you have some mists, we'll use mists. Again, what you have. I'm going to use some colors. They may not be the colors you like. I want you to take this and use the ideas from it, so you don't have to follow my color scheme exactly. And if you ever take classes with me, you see I tend to use the same colors. I like my blues, my greens, my grays. I'm going to try really hard and do a pink one today. We'll see how that goes. Pink is not my favorite color. We have some background stamps and your adhesive. Gel medium, we're going to use this today. If you don't have gel medium, you can use glue, Mod Podge. Personally, I prefer gel medium over Mod Podge, but that's just a personal preference. Use the adhesive that you have and are comfortable with. And we are going to get started making our cards. Okay, we're going to start making our first mixed media Valentine's Day card. And what I have here is, again, my 4.5 by 6.5 piece of watercolor paper. Again, if you don't have that, go ahead, use a neutral cardstock. Just remember, it might start buckling a little bit, but once you glue it down to your finished card base, you should be okay. I also have some trims. I have a script stamp. I have a piece of bubble wrap from a package that came the other day. You can also use sequin waste to get what you want, or there are several stamps out there on the market now that simulate the bubble wrap look without the actual bubble wrap. Sheet music. I have some pink mist. This is called Cotton Candy Pink. And then I'm going to use some StazOn Timber Brown. And I also have a paper towel. And that's how we're just going to get a little bit of texture on our background. So the first thing is I'm just going to take my cardstock and I'm just going to spray. You see I have puddles in some spots. And I'm going to lift it up and let it drip down. And then for the first one, I'm just going to blot it. And we're going to add a couple more layers of the pink on here. So you're going to have some spots where it's darker and some spots where it's lighter. I'm going to go dry this and then we're going to spray it again. Okay, it's dry. And we're going to start, I'm just going to add make sure when you shake that you don't have any on there already. And I'm just going to do another layer. I just really like the mottled look that it's going to give as our base. Okay. And I'm going to dry this and I'll see if I want to add one more layer or if I'll be happy with how it is. So I have 2 layers of mist on here and I think I'm actually kind of happy with how it is. So I'm not going to touch it. I'm going to leave it alone. And we're going to continue on and add another layer of fun. And what I'm going to do this time, I'm going to take the Timber Brown StazOn ink. You could use a gray, you could use a black, whatever color you're looking for. I'm going to use the script stamp here. I know my stamp doesn't fit on my block, but that's okay because I'm not going for, I don't want I want it to be light in some spots, darker in the others. And so we have our another layer here. And now I think what I want is I'm going to take my bubble wrap and I'm going to take my paint. And if you don't have this, you can use, like I said, white acrylic paint, just paint it on. Gesso, if that's what you have. I'm just going to put some paint right on my bubble wrap. And I know you all have all seen this. You may have all done it. It's just another fun way of adding texture. And because we're using the white or the off-white here, it's very subtle. You kind of have to lift it up and hold it to the light differently. You can sort of see it on there. It is hard, like I said, because we're using such a neutral color. It almost doesn't show up unless you sit there. And that's what I like about it when I make my cards, is that I try to get a lot of layers in without overwhelming the card and making it so bulky that it's just, costs an arm and a leg to mail it. Okay, so I've put a little bit of paint on here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to dry this and I'll be right back. Okay, so all my layers are dry and we can continue on. The next thing I'm going to add is a little bit of cheesecloth. You can buy this at your grocery store, big box store. It's cheap. It's really cool for adding all sorts of texture, and a little goes a really long way. Actually going to cut it in half to make it fit onto my card. And I'm going to put this on. I'm just going to use some gel medium, watered down glue, Mod Podge, whatever you want. And you're going to get all these strings. You see them coming off there, and that's good. You want that because that's just adding even more really cool texture to your card. Just gonna throw that down. I might get another tiny little piece. down here. See, and I'm not worried about spreading it around. There are certain spots where it's really thick and others where it's real thin. And we're just going to let that dry for a second. We'll do our next layer. Okay. So now I have just these little pieces of sheet music, book text, whatever you have on hand. And I'm just going to kind of put them on. And I inked the edges. I just used some brown ink and inked around the edges just to kind of make them blend in. And we'll put that on. And what this is just, and you don't have to worry about edges matching up or anything, because we are about to put our heart on here, and we'll cover that up. But it's just one more layer. I'm lucky enough that I had a friend that sent me all these handmade papers. I love my friends. And I'm going to cut my heart out with one of them, and that's what I did. I just freehand cut out the heart. Smooth my edges a little. Okay, we're just going to glue this one down as well. Again, my precise measuring, 2 fingers from each side, we're good to go. And I'm just going to put that down. And I have my charcoal pencil, and I'm just going to go around the outside of this, just so you aren't losing the edges of your heart. You can go and smudge it with your finger. Okay, so here's my heart. I have my layers, I have my stamping. What I'm going to do is I'm going to distress my edges, because especially with this pink, I'm thinking this. And then I'll ink them with brown ink to make it stand out, the pink and the brown. Okay, so I'm just going to finish distressing and I'll be ready. Okay, so I outlined this. You saw we started distressing and I finished distressing all the edges of my card. And I inked it with some brown ink. Now, the next thing I had said we would do is we'll just mount it, or mat it, almost like if you were doing a scrapbook page and we're matting your photo to make it really stand out. And then I have one of my 5x7 card bases. The only other thing I did to finish it off is I added a little raffia ribbon and a stamp, Be My Valentine. And it's just a little shabby chick mixed media Valentine card. And what I'll do is I'll just adhere all those layers together, and we've made our first card.